apocalypse that has made all gamers so sad. Every gamer you know has been in a state of depression. And it's not because it's world news. They don't follow that. It's because they can't buy RAM. RAM is too expensive. They can't build a new PC. Look at the face Linus is making. Look at the RAM crisis. It's bad, dude. The RAM apocalypse is real. Ever since about December of last year, let's see if we can get this on the map. The prices of R5 RAM has just skyrocketed to north of $400. Okay? So people, and this is like used to be, you know, a 120. This used to be 120, sometimes 85. And now you can't fucking buy it. So people have been angry. And we made a video about this back in December called The AI Tax Has Started, where basically, oh my God, dude. We made a video back in December where basically I made the argument that, hey, this is probably not a price raise because a secret Illuminati cabal of gamer-hating CEOs wanted to force you to use cloud gaming, like I was seeing on social media. I don't think it's because of that. I think that's probably not the reason. They didn't decide all of December, let's fucking go. I think more realistically, the reason this price hike happened is because Sam Altman showed up to these three companies that control 95% of the memory market and said, hey, I have $1.4 trillion to spend. I want to buy all of the memory in the world, which is what he did late last year. I'm only exaggerating slightly. He has to buy 40% of the world's memory supply for all the foreseeable future. Not kidding. He did it with an IOU. He said, okay, we're building out. We're going to need every piece of memory. We need 40% of all the wafers of memory that you're creating for the foreseeable future. And it caused a massive panic in the memory market, and it caused a huge supply crunch because when one guy takes 40% off the table, everyone else rushes in to buy more. So that was the IOU. And recently, though, the reason I'm talking about this again, because that's a summary of what happened. The reason I'm talking about this again is because in the past few days, early April, gamers have started to get hopeful again. They've been getting excited because a wave of reports have come out that said, hey, RAM prices are finally falling. RAM prices are crashing in a huge market correction. DDR5 retail prices pull back. This writer says, I called it. Holy, the prices are coming down. This one came out and said Chinese memory stockpilers are starting to panic as falling prices leave them stuck with modules. And they showed this video of a Chinese, dude, what fucking button am I hitting? Is there a Microsoft Edge button? Okay, sorry. I'm back. Christ, dude. It's fucking Copilot or something. I hate. I'm sorry to pause in the middle. They've run Windows into the ground, folks. I feel like every Windows update is worse than the last. Just make it better. Okay, anyway, sorry, I'm back. Chinese memory stockpilers. So this video comes out and it shows a Chinese memory stockpiler and he's whining. Now, I'm an expert on the Chinese language because I spent 2 whole weeks in China. What he's saying is, oh no, I bought all this memory and I can't scalp it. The American gamers will be so happy once they can buy this at lower prices. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. So obviously people are getting happy again. Linus Tech Tips came out and said,
how about some good news for consumers who might have been looking to build or upgrade a PC? Want to talk about that?
Yeah.
DDR5 pricing in China faces, this is a quote from, I think it's WCCF Tech said this, faces a complete collapse with shifting.
Okay, so things are good, right? But then all these headlines come out and then people go to Amazon and they check the price of the DDR5 RAM they want to buy and it's the same. It's $400. Maybe it's down like 15 bucks or whatever, but it's $400, bro. Like what, all this noise and people can't actually buy cheaper RAM. And so I wanted to do a deeper dive on this story. Like what's going on? Why is there an indication that it might be going one way? Why is it going the other? And what I found is a very, very interesting set of infinity stones, a set of factors that are all combining together to create a very interesting situation. And we'll start with not necessarily the stones, but the snap, okay? Because in the past few days, Sam Altman cut the $1.4 trillion spend that he had planned to do in half, okay? OpenAI came out and said, hey, we gotta reset our spending expectations. Our entire compute target is now around $600 billion by 2030. Instead of $1.4 trillion, get out the door, let's spend it, it's like, well, maybe it's more like $600 billion. And that is because, as I've said over and over and over again, OpenAI is really facing more and more of a reckoning on how they're gonna pay all these bills, all these IOUs they've put out into the world. Their revenue is not growing nearly fast enough. In fact, Claude's revenue is growing faster. Like, how are they gonna be able to pay all this? And that's becoming a real question. So they snapped this in half. They reset some expectations. After previously boasting $1.4 trillion in infrastructure commitments, OpenAI is now telling investors it plans to spend $600 billion. Okay? Do you remember the Stargate project? This is back in January of 2025, where OpenAI went up there with Trump and announced the Stargate project, where they were gonna put $500 billion with Masayoshi-san into building new data centers in Texas.
And CEO of OpenAI, and I would say by far the leading expert based on everything I read, Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming in together. That's a massive group of talent. And
you can tell he really knows who Sam Altman is. So there's this big release. Well, let's flash forward a little over a year from this announcement, and it turns out this flagship data center the plans are ending. The big expansion idea has been totally shut down. Most of what they were planning to build, they can't get the parts for or have the cash to finance. And in fact, it's not just OpenAI. Half of all planned US data center builds have been delayed or canceled. The truth is, the combination of like local government and local political pushback, the fact that you can't get the power, half the time they don't have enough power to turn these things on, and then there's parts from China that they're finding it hard to get in the quantities they need to build. So all these things are combined together to make the data center build out less concrete. And yet, memory prices are still $400. They needed all this memory to build the data centers. Why the disconnect? And that's what I want to go into, okay? By the way, OpenAI, even though they can't do their Stargate project the way they designed it, and even though they're cutting their spending expectations in half, they did still have time to buy a podcast. I truly don't know why. I'm not the only one who thinks this is pretty silly, okay? I've been reading this. By the way, this is a podcast they acquired for a reported sum of $150 million or more. And I looked up this podcast. No disrespect, I don't know who they are. I'm sure they're fucking amazing if you like them, but these views, maybe, are they big on Spotify? Like, I look them up and it's like, what? This is $150 million? The OpenAI acquires TP and got 9.1K views? It's like an insider VC pod. I guess maybe it's the quality of the viewer. I don't know, but this is crazy to me. So I like to read Ben Thompson's Stratechery blog. I think he has pretty good insights on the tech world. And he had a pretty scathing takedown of this, where he said, well, first he opened by saying, I've given OpenAI a lot of the benefit of the doubt. Okay? Over the years, he's given OpenAI a lot of benefit of the doubt. He's a pro-tech guy, okay? And then he goes on by saying, I've previously wondered if OpenAI might be like Twitter, another tech-centric company that fell backwards into a huge market and never developed into a functional business because of it. If Twitter is a clown car that fell into a gold mine, OpenAI might be the short bus at the end of the rainbow. There's supposed to be a pot of gold there, but it never quite seems to materialize. The colors are fading, and worst of all, there isn't much evidence that anyone knows what they're doing or that there's any sort of overarching plan. And like, if you know this guy, this is a pretty scathing statement. Okay? Like he's like generally an optimist and generally but clearly their decisions, I mean, like, you know, throwing all their money into things like Sora and ads and then canceling those things and then the ads not really paying off at the current level. He's had it down here. Look, ads are bad, which OpenAI did say, until they're the plan. Then Meta executives are hired en masse, and then the ads they launch are low-effort, keyword-driven offerings. Again, the ad quality on OpenAI has been terrible so far. Apple's a partner until they hire Johnny Ive to build a physical product. But then Johnny Ive is still out working for Ferrari. Meanwhile, their competitor Anthropic is focused directly on enterprise and shipping. Google's encroaching. And the answer to all that is to buy a podcast? What is going on here? So look, obviously, I could do a whole separate video on how OpenAI seems to be making misstep after misstep. And GPT-6 better go fucking crazy or they're looking like they're consigned to the dustbin. But at the end of the day, it comes back to this. Why is this price still high if all the data centers are slowing down production? There's like 5 different reasons. I'm not kidding. The more I looked into it, it's like this insane perfect storm that is hitting at the same time as other things are going down. So I want to go into it, okay? First of all, Sam Altman, when he showed up to the memory companies back in late last year, he signed what were called LOIs, letters of intent. These are non-binding, okay? He basically said, we're good for it for $1.4 trillion, but there's gonna be no legal ramifications if we don't pay. So he is not on the hook for the money he promised. However, this is the interesting part. Everyone else that rushed in after him in the panic is people like Apple. So late last year, early this year, Apple sent executives to book extended hotel stays in South Korea to negotiate long-term memory deals. Everyone was so panicked because of the rising prices that they all flew out to South Korea. Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, they all flew out and locked in 5-year deals at the higher prices. The demand, everyone was so scared of getting locked out that this letter of intent by Sam Altman caused a panic that caused all memory prices to get bought. AMD's Lisa Su flew to South Korea to secure memory. And Samsung at the time considered 5-year memory contracts, okay, locked in these long-year deals. At the same time, okay, this is bad news. That explains why, somewhat, why memory prices might still be high. However, there's a reason gamers could still be happy. Okay? Another influence from a different direction. That is Google. And I'm not talking about fucking Stadia. I'm talking about TurboQuant. Because in the past few days, there was a small but rapid dip in memory prices. Because Google found a new way to be non-technical here, but to compress the context window of an LLM. Basically, when you're talking to your AI boyfriend, okay, it can only remember so much of your chat history, okay? But now they have found a way to compress that 6x. How did they do that? I'm gonna explain it by this image they showed. I have no idea what it means, but apparently it's middle out compression if you've watched Silicon Valley. Thanks to this image, they've figured out a way to compress the context window, which again is the most memory demanding part of an LLM, 6 times. So that uses way less memory. And when this news came out, it legitimately did cause a panic in the memory market because they were like, holy fuck, if AI needs 1/6 the memory, then all of this buyout has been insane. Like, we need to panic right now. However, unfortunately for gamers, you're about to be sad again because of this man from the 1800s. His name is William Stanley Jevons, and he, thinking emoji, figured out Jevons paradox, which is why the market did not crash memory prices, okay? Jevons, seen here in the 1800s, noticed something. He's a bit of a noticer, okay? And he noticed that everyone was using this shitty, inefficient steam engine to do things in the 1800s, okay? He noticed that it took a fuck ton of coal, they put it into the steam engine, and then it did an action in the factory. And he's like, hey, how come whenever we invent a brand new, better steam engine that uses less coal to do the same thing in a factory, how come we're still not using, we're not using less coal? And what he realized was, instead of saving on coal when this gets more efficient, people just build more factories. The truth is, Jevons paradox is the idea that as these costs get more efficient, people just find new ways to deploy it and you end up with a greater total demand. A modern example might be that, like, it used to be really, before modern compression algorithms, sending even a 360p video took up a lot of bandwidth. And the idea would be like, oh, if we find a way to compress this video, you would use less bandwidth in your phone. But in fact, what we did was just stream a lot more and 4K and watch Atrioc while watching One Piece while scrolling TikTok, okay? All in higher qualities. Like the idea is we actually consume a lot more as it gets cheaper and more efficient, not less. So in this case, the idea is that even if Google is correct here and they can compress context windows and use less memory, we're just gonna go from this conversation with our AI boyfriend to this one. We're just gonna use longer context windows and they're gonna make more AI stuff. Like the idea is not that they'll be losing less memory. So again, that is a reason why memory prices are not going down. And then additionally, let's fly whoosh out to a factory in South Korea where most of the world's memory is made. This is like one of them right here. What do you think are some of the inputs that are really important going into this factory? Well, I'll tell you. On one side, there's energy, largely through liquefied natural gas, LNG. Another side is helium. Helium is extremely important. I don't know if you guys have possibly, if you guys are deep cut enjoyers of the news, if you're really tuned in, you might have possibly heard about the Strait of Hormuz in the past few days. If you're really locked in, maybe this crossed your mind. It turns out that energy and helium to South Korea are both products of the Strait of Hormuz. And so, as South Korea flags uncertainty from Qatar LNG plant damage, and as helium stocks of South Korea's chip makers are only gonna last until June, this panic is causing memory prices to rise, even as data center demand might cause it to fall, okay? It's all counteracting. Additionally, another thing is happening. I'm going through another thing. So because memory prices have been so high, again, go back to this $400. Because they've been so high, the memory companies have been making incredible windfall profits. Samsung is cashing in on the memory crisis as it estimates profits of over 8 times this period of last year. They love it. Everybody wants to buy their shit. All the tech companies and consumers and everybody. They're paying top dollar prices. They're bidding war for their stuff. Congrats, I say begrudgingly. However, this money that Samsung is making has not trickled down to their employees. And so guess what? They're going on strike. They just ratified a massive Samsung plant worker strike at the memory factories, which make a large part of, again, only 3 companies make this memory and one of them's having a big strike. A 17,700 worker strike. So this is another reason memory prices are going up. So as you can see, even though Sam Altman and his fake IOU have been exposed, and that was initially causing a crash along with Google TurboQuant, all of this is happening at the same time to keep it high. And so realistically, when, you're probably asking the question, okay, so when are gamers gonna actually be happy? When can I actually build my new PC? And I have built an unfortunately sad timeline for you here. Based on what we're seeing, now is the bad time. Now is the red area. You are gonna get $400 RAM. Actually, in fact, it's not only bad for gamers, but a lot of people, because reports are coming out that it's gonna inflate phone prices in the next year, laptop prices. A lot of things are gonna be inflated because of this RAM price. Consumer electronics are gonna be expensive. However, a lot of, because of this demand, a lot of companies are starting to set up new factories to adapt to the demand. Again, there's a bit of a race between the 3 competitors. So realistically, if you can wait to build your new PC, if you have enough to game, I mean, you're probably gonna play fucking League of Legends with it anyway. Be honest, you're gonna build a brand new PC and then not play any new games on it. You're gonna play the same old games that you don't need. You're gonna play Rocket League or Uma Musume or something. Okay, you're not gonna need it. So realistically, if you can wait, it's seeming like new factory supply comes online in mid-2027. At which point, based on the cyclical nature of chips, which has happened over and over and over, there's probably gonna be a glut and prices are gonna go down pretty significantly. But if you really want the good times, if you really want like mass competition for your dollar, driving prices down, it's looking like 2028 is going to be a true glut because China's two biggest memory makers are massively expanding factories that come on in that time. And so once China enters the picture, historically, prices get driven down to rock bottom levels. They just run the factories. And so Chinese factory pressure plus the 3 South Korean companies' new factories means that by 2028, you are likely to see really low prices. But 2027, you should start to see easing. So that's your best shot. If you have to buy today, my understanding is that you can get a 16 gig Corsair for like a decent price, $200 or something. It's not great, but that's like your best deal. If you have to buy today, but I wouldn't recommend it. That's my update. I just want to let you know, I thought it was pretty fascinating how like all of these things integrated at the same time to basically keep prices in the same spot.